SaaS and cloud solutions. When we started, almost no bank would entertain launching our software and working with us with a cloud-based solution. That is, so most of our early implementations were on-premise, but that is now changing, and we see that is transition underway. Some banks still want it on-premise, but now more of our solutions are deployed in the cloud or either in a private cloud or a public cloud setting. The biggest trend, though, probably is the open banking and PSD2, which is having a massive impact. And the shift in appetite of banks to generally kind of part ways with their data or their customers' data to create new services has been enormous. One of the use cases we've been emphasizing at Meniga is cashback rewards, which we see as one of the best drivers of engagement in digital banking.
Okay.
And this is something we've been building for a few years. And last year we acquired a company for the first time in Sweden, a company called Wrap that had been doing cashback rewards in partnership with banks in the Nordics. And the motivation for this acquisition was to get some of the leading banks on the Nordics in the same platform, which we are now rolling out in the Nordics and beyond. And this means that the users of these banks are being asked, do you want to get those cashback rewards offers based on your spending profile? So if you're a golfer, golf stores will compete for your business. And when people say yes, their data is now moved to our cloud solution. We process them, find those offers from merchants and serve them through the mobile bank. And this willingness of banks to join these platforms that are multi-bank, where data leaves the bank, is kind of very different from, that was kind of absolutely the exception just 2-3 years ago, but now that's becoming the rule.
Great. So very related to that, and given that you've spent quite some time in the US, out of this, I mean, again, this is probably one of those, but do you see PSD2, open banking, and any 2-3 other trends actually getting exported out of Europe into the US?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, we mostly operate in Europe, but we have a few customers outside, and we speak to a lot of banks and others in all regions. And no, I mean, we see there's a lot of talk about similar regulation being in the works in many other regions, and I think several countries are actively planning such regulation, partly inspired by Europe. I think countries like South Africa, Canada, Australia are all working on such open banking legislation. I think it's very interesting. I think Europe and European Union has typically been seen as a regulation as a hindrance to innovation, and I think there's some truth to that. People often say Uber or Airbnb probably couldn't have been started in Europe, which I think is true. But now I think the GDPR also with privacy and this open banking movement is a very interesting experiment in kind of solidifying the principle that people own their own data and data should be exportable. And I think that principle is really catching on. And we are seeing banks and others, and also outside of Europe, acting more in line with that principle, that we have to ask permission for use of data. And if people want to move their data elsewhere, they can do so.
Good. So your own plans to ride on this trend, so to speak, expansion and market coverage so far?
Yes, these trends that are all increasing demand for our solutions. We are basically helping banks fight against disruption, stay relevant, improve the engagement of the digital banking through software solutions, but also through new services that bring revenue to the banks, where we share revenue like this rewards as a service platform that we're building out of the Nordics. And we are primarily focused in Europe, but we're now opening an office in Singapore to focus more actively on Southeast Asia. We're also looking at North America. We also see demand outside of banking for our solutions. We launched, for example, a financial coach type app in Sweden in partnership with one of the largest grocery chains in Sweden. We're also working on a major project now with a telco in the UK that is looking to launch an app based on our solution. So we see appetite from other players than banks to launch a financial advisory or a financial coach type application on top of open banking and then link it to their business. So demand in new verticals is also increasing.
Great. Excellent. So any 2-3 tips for prospective founders who have started like 2-3 years ago, or maybe even starting now? How have you sort of held fort for so long and done well, what would your lesson be to prospective fintech founders?
Yeah, I mean, many lessons. I mean, it's always ups and downs. I mean, every successful company, but now I think is an excellent time to start or be in the fintech space. There's so much uncertainty about the future, and there's no consensus by investors or thought leaders who the winners are going to be. There's a lot of appetite to kind of for cloud solutions to move data, even the banks are doing that now. So that is it's a lot of opportunity to build something meaningful. I think main advice is to stay focused and pick something and focus on it, and don't be too preoccupied with what others are doing. Just pick a use case. Also, that's another. Pick a compelling use case. I think there's too much focus now on technology like AI or machine learning or the regulation, PSD2 and open banking. It's a lot of investment in creating that infrastructure, but I think there's too few companies focusing on the actual use cases. What does it matter for users? People are, open banking is nice, but what's in it for me? So I think if you stay focused on what actually matters to people, that's more important than the underlying technology or the infrastructure to get it.
Great. So thanks for taking the time, Georg. Have a great rest of the Money 2020 event, and pleasure that you could have us.
No, thank you for having me. Pleasure.
Thanks.
Yes.